We're live. Equal Time's back.
We're here. Happy Sunday.
Yeah. Dani, where are you at?
I'm on my way to Indianapolis, actually. I have some work there this week, so it's nothing fun at all. I'm sorry to not be there with you.
Shout out to Indy 11. They're one of the best W League teams this year. So yeah, you're close to some soccer at least.
Yep.
Cool. How much were you able to consume from the game on Friday? Did you see any of the highlights or able to see?
Oh my God. Yes, so exciting. I know that everybody was blowing up my feed after the game about how excited they were to see the attendance again, how exciting the team, like the first home win was. I mean, yeah, it was just everybody was blowing me up. So it was great.
So I wanted to ask you about that because Dani had let Matt and I know that, and we expect it too, but that, players are paying attention to this because it is, we're homers because we're in Minnesota, but it's a big deal to everyone in soccer. So, and when I interviewed a couple of AURORA players, they said, when I asked what their goals were for the summer, two of them said, first off was exposure. They want to get better, they want to train, but the exposure is what's special. They're getting exposure. So yes. What do you hear when players talk to you? Like what and these are former pros and current pros. What are they saying about it?
Yeah, honestly, they are, a lot of them were like, tell me about what this team is like. I know that you were doing some stuff with them, but I wasn't really sure. I thought it was just another W League team, which I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, but it just usually have this kind of hype behind it and this kind of attention. So they were like, tell me more about this. Like, why am I hearing about this everywhere? I'm seeing it all over Twitter. I'm seeing it all over Instagram. So, huge shout out to to all of the people like you that are really putting a lot of attention to it because it's working. It is working. And for the girls to see this kind of exposure, like that really, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity for a lot of players. Like this will be the most attended soccer that they're going to play probably in their lives.
Yeah, they could go to Europe and play in like some Champions League games and not have as many fans as
absolutely. And I will say, even early NWSL, there was games I played in that didn't have that kind of attendance. So totally. I think seeing the way that the community has turned out for this is really honestly, it's a surprise to, I think, a lot of even women's soccer players.
Oh yeah. Well, and it shows that it's just like people just need the chance. That's what we keep saying. Because if you present it at a scale that's big and you put big effort behind it, people are ready to jump in. So I mean, and we joke with you and I joke with coaches, like, does it make them want to play? Because this is a cool thing to get to play in. But it's like, almost certainly we know, Minnesota, especially Minnesota-based players, like college players, they're seeing this. There's no way there's not players here saying, I love my academy team, but like I want to try to be a part of that next year. How much do you think former pros or like people at a level of, like people like on your level where like maybe they played in NWSL, maybe they're in and out. How much do you think players like that, like from wherever, are seeing this and legitimately planning like, oh, I might want to try to play for them next year?
Oh, I definitely think it's becoming a thing. So I will say, I think the MLS is trying to do something similar where they're using like the USL and things like that into sort of a feeder into the MLS clubs, right? I think women's soccer wants to emulate that, but just hasn't had the investment behind it to even make that a viable thing. So really the W League has been treated as a, literally like a college, summer thing. But now we see players like myself or Bev Yanis, who we had on earlier, where after she was done playing professionally, she went and played for a W League team because she wanted to keep playing. And she didn't want it to be obviously as a professional thing, but wanted to stay in the game. And so I do think that it could be a really viable thing where we're making this college girls feeding into an NWSL team. I think Louisville Racing is doing something similar right now, right? Where they have a W League team, and I'm sure that their coaches are keeping their eye on those players to see who do we want to look at. So I think that is a really viable future for this. It just requires some investment, exactly like what you're saying. And I think that's what AURORA is doing. I think that's what the community is saying. Like, we want to see this be successful.
Yeah, and so it's just so fun to see. There's always more and more people, in the soccer world. You see people are always wearing the gear on their soccer podcasts. You see, you see more and more. And also in the Twin Cities, just the mainstream media is covering this team. I mean, like really big. Like I saw Jen Clark is going to be interviewed, and they're promoting it as like a full scale, it's like a sit down interview for an assistant coach of this team, on network TV on Friday. It's like, that's crazy,
Yeah. Well, I mean, shout out. Even I went to breakfast this morning here before I had to leave, and in Minneapolis, we went to Tiny Diner, and there was tons of people sitting with their Minnesota Aurora jerseys on and shirts on. I was like, yes, I love to see this. I love it.
Yeah, and I say it before because it's an incestuous thing. I have the Blackheart and this team and everything else, but I work at the queer soccer bar Blackheart, and people do come in and they'll be like, I know you from something, and it helps that there's two of my face walking around this team, but he's like, I know you something, you do the equal time pregame shows, and I was like, yes, I do, so it's well, and also Danny, to the work I'm doing, the views come a little bit more from you being tagged than me. So this is it's exciting to see how many people are coming into it, and we're going to have more and more of your old teammates and friends from the game as we go on too. So that's really exciting. It's cool, and probably people you don't get to connect with that much.
No, it's great, and that's where I think these, like a lot of women that I played with, they want to stay involved in the game. They want to see the game continue to grow, but we don't have that many opportunities to do that. So, so I think something like this is really exciting for them to stay involved in. And shout out to Just Women's Sports for for writing about Minnesota just after we had Haley on, So I think all of these things are kind of aligning, and I really love it.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to see, the growing. I mentioned it in the last pregame, just the growing of we're the lower league that you can see the soccer media group growing too, and we support each other, and it's really positive because it's like Bridget McDowell and Matt Johnson both write. Look for them on Twitter, and I retweet them all the time. They write amazing stuff about it, which I'm not going to write that stuff, so I'm happy that they're writing it, and Danny can just goof around. But talk about this short turnaround. Aurora's playing basically like a little baseball series where they're playing 2 games against Chicago here, then they play them on Friday. And by the way, Chicago has a game on Wednesday in between that because they have a huge roster. So it's bizarre. But talk about short turnarounds like that, because it's not ideal to play. Literally, it's 36 hours. They played Friday night, and now it's noon. So did you have to do that in college? Or I'm sure in college, but was it in NWSL even? Did you ever have that?
No, NWSL does not ever have that short of a turnaround. I feel like colleges, which again, a lot of these girls are preparing for their college season. They're going back into it, which is usually a Friday, Sunday, or Thursday, Saturday kind of a game setup. So I think this is a really, a lot of these girls will probably be really used to that. If they're not, it'll benefit them in their college seasons to get into this. But this is where we're coming into the back half of the season for them for, the summer, where their legs are probably starting to get a little bit tired. Travel is hard, especially because it's a lot on buses. Right. So it's a lot of hours just kind of sitting. So that's where I think, games like today, especially midday games, it would give a couple more hours if the game were tonight. But the reality is that Sundays are usually midday, and that brings a whole different kind of a mentality that they have to come in with. Right. I would say the same as last week on their Sunday game, where it was, you really have to think about coming out as quick as you can and going for the win, getting a goal as soon as you can, because the longer that these games draw on, the more exhausting they're going to be. Really, the harder it is going to be to score.
What time do you think they woke up today for the game, to get in here? And
yeah, these are early mornings, because usually they have their pregame routines where they want to eat 3 hours before. So they're probably wanting to eat at 9. A lot of them like to go for a walk before, maybe just get their bodies going. So, and if you're going to have breakfast before that, maybe you're looking at a 7 a.m. wake up, I would say. It would be, that would have been my pregame. So. Right.
Yeah, it's a short turnaround for us too. Very busy. I'm doing the game on Friday.
Just exhausting.
I got to bartend before the Loons and Potter and friendly yesterday.
Yes.
So talk about, and also about getting the goals early. I mean, one of the things, they've been successful in that the last couple games. They've gotten more into yesterday on Friday, they came out in rhythm so well. They were immediately getting through. They were immediately getting shots. And then we have seen a bit of a pattern though, in the second half, and especially when they sub, which makes sense. We've had the moments between 70th and 85 and stuff where the other team has had a chance and got back in it a little bit. And so it definitely pays, but they've built enough leads to where even if they get under danger, they've held it up. So, I mean, what do you think about that in terms of them maybe tightening that up, how they rotate in the second half and keeping rhythm to feel safer.
Yeah. So, I mean, soccer's such a game of rhythms, right? It is a game of ebbs and flows. And so there's times when like, especially when they come out with energy, which is usually like beginning of the game and then beginning of halftime, where there's a ton of energy, and then things will slow down. I mean, it's just inevitable. And so having to weather those storms is the hardest part, especially after subs, when you have some changes, you have new people coming into the game. That's where I think it gets really tough on these players. That's the mental side of this. That is really like, you have to be mentally fit for the full 90 minutes. But those are the minutes that get really hard. So I would say that's probably something that Nicole is talking to them about. Like, we need to weather these minutes for sure, but we need to keep scoring to give us that comfort when we do die, because that's when it's going to happen. It's inevitable.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's just the fact of, it's also the basis of leagues like this where it's tight turnaround, player rotations can be heavy. Although, to be honest, Nicole's kept it pretty consistent. Like, she seems to have her rotation, with which there's always a core, there's almost always 7 or 8 players continuing from the last game, especially in the back. But she is rotating. Like, Morgan Turner is starting again today, so we'll see how she does with that opportunity, which really, really good opportunity for her, because last game, I mean, we scored 3 goals, but I know we had 2 shots off the post, and then we had a couple other ones. I mean, so there's a chance to put up a lot of goals today. So Morgan, I think she's probably really excited to get this home start.
For sure. I also would say, like, you brought a really good point. So in the standings right now, goal differential is what is separating 1 and 2. So goals for, goals against are really, really important. So coming out and scoring as many as you can, and obviously then tightening things up and not letting even a 3-1 win, that difference between a 3-goal differential and a 2-goal differential can really make a big difference come the end of the season.
Yeah, only one team makes the playoffs, so it is tight, and Aurora's at the top, tied with Green Bay right now. And I think we have a 1 better goal difference, but it really does seem like it's playing out this way. We're tied with Green Bay, and we end the year 2 games at Green Bay, so that's going to be fun. And but they need to win this game. If they don't win these games where they're expected, then it won't matter,
Yep. You're exactly right. And I'm sure that's the conversation they're having in the locker room, is like, we're going into the back half of the year. We know what the end of the year is going to look like. The points that we get today are really, really important.
And then, so I want to give a shout out too, because last game I was really excited. Late in the game, we had all 3 rap triplets in the game. So Rami and Kat and sorry, there's too many of them. Rami and Eli. Eli's the one who's been starting all the time, and I didn't remember her. Thanks, Matt. That's why we work as a team. Matt Johnson. But you played with probably the most famous soccer multiples of all time in college. So it was like, talk about playing with the Rapinos. Like, how does it help? I mean, I would imagine there's chemistry and defense is getting mixed up. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yes. The Rapinos have an incredible chemistry. I will say that. As twins, it was so fun to play with them because they know each other. They knew exactly what each other were going to do before they did it, So that really speaks to both of them. Rachel Rapinoe is also an amazing soccer player. She played professionally in Iceland. It was her own, she had her own soccer career. So I think, being able to play with the 2 of them was so fun. They are both so creative and always did wild things, but they always knew what each other were going to do. Nobody else could have said that was what we were going to do, but they always knew it, So I'm sure for the 3 that they function really similarly. Not to mention that's got to be so fun to play with your siblings, I would have loved to play with my brother for sure.
No, I was so happy. I just thought about their parents. Like, are they watching? This is cool. And and I will say, I liked playing with Matt too, but he played in the midfield. He's always demanding the ball. He thought he should have the ball more. And he was like, we were good in basketball together. In soccer, I was always like, calm down, Matt. Calm down. You don't need the ball. You're not a ball dominant 8. Get out of here. But yeah, so anyway, this is fun. Dani, I'm glad you were able to join us, even though you're out of town. And next game is Friday away, so again against Chicago City. So we're becoming familiar. We'll see. to be honest, they didn't put us under a lot of pressure last game, although they had that one goal. So we'll see what players stand out for Chicago City, because it was more about Aurora in the last game, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it'll give us some insight into next week too. So we'll learn a lot.
Awesome, Dani.
Alrighty.
Good to talk to you as always.
Yeah,
we'll
you
hang
too.
out soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.